What if, in a moment you are facing, you could change the outcome? Not by reacting, but by thinking about or even predicting the next move. What would change? A better outcome? Could the next step lead toward an outcome you are looking for? Because when you take a moment to think through the next move, something changes. The move becomes a choice, not a reaction. Predictive is the P in PBM. It is the part where you think through the next move before the behavior happens. Behavior is the action you take. So predictive asks, where could this move lead? What direction could it create? And is that direction connected to the outcome you are looking for? Or is it part of the bigger picture? Think about a simple moment. Someone asks you for something. Your first reaction might be to say yes. Not because yes is the right answer, but because it is the quick answer. Before yes becomes the behavior, stop the reaction and think predictive. Even a few seconds to think through the next move can change the direction. So you ask yourself, if I say yes, where does that move lead? Does it support the outcome I am looking for? Or does it pull me away from the bigger picture? And if yes is not the right move, what action would move the moment in a better direction? That is predictive at work. It takes the reaction out of the equation long enough for a person to think, even if it is only for a few moments. But in those few moments, the next move can become clearer. The possible outcome can become easier to see. And the behavior has a better chance of matching the direction you are trying to create. That is why predictive matters. It gives the next move a reason before behavior turns it into action. Predictive is not only about your next move. Sometimes it is about the move someone else may make. If I answer this way, what might they do next? If I say yes, what could that create? If I say no, what direction could that move the moment? If I stay quiet, what happens next? This is still predictive. You are not trying to control the other person. You are trying to reasonably predict their response. You are trying to understand the direction the moment may take. Because one move can create another move. And when you think through that before behavior happens, the action you need to take can become easier to see. That is the difference between reacting and trying to reasonably predict the outcome. Reaction moves first and understands later. Predictive thinks first, so behavior has direction. You may still be facing the same moment, the same question, the same choice. But now the action is not being led by reaction. There is a reasonable assumption behind it, a direction behind it, a possible outcome being considered before the behavior happens. That is why predictive comes first in PBM. Because before behavior can test the move, predictive gives the move a direction. And once the behavior happens, the moment gives you something to look at. Did the move lead in the direction you thought it would? Did it bring the outcome closer? Did the other person respond the way you reasonably expected? Or did the moment show you something different? That is not wasted thought. That is how predictive becomes stronger. Because every time you think through the next move before the behavior happens, you give the model something to learn from. The next moment may become easier to read. The next direction may become easier to see. And the next action may become clearer before you take it. That is predictive. The P in PBM. It is the moment before the action. The point where reaction is stopped long enough for direction to be considered. Where the next move is not just made because it is quick. It is made because you thought it through, without reacting to it. Where could this lead? What outcome could this create? Is this connected to the direction I am looking for? Or is it only carrying the reaction forward? That is what predictive brings into the moment. A reason, a direction, a clearer view of what may come next. Then behavior takes over. Behavior is the action, the move that tests the prediction. That is thinking PBM. Predictive gives the move a direction, behavior tests it through action, and the model learns from what happens next. Then the circle begins again. And each time the circle is completed, your focus becomes clearer. So the next time a moment asks for a quick answer, pause long enough to think predictive. Ask yourself, where could this move lead? What outcome could this create? Is this connected to the direction I am looking for? Because the goal is not to let reaction choose the move for you. The goal is to think through the move before behavior turns it into action. That is predictive. That is the P in PBM. And that is where the next move starts to become clearer.